The room was quiet when he sang it, not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that leans in, holding its breath. Yu Menglong stood there with a microphone in his hand, his expression calm, almost gentle, yet his eyes carried something heavier than the melody itself. At the time, no one thought much of it. It was just a song, another performance, another moment that would fade into the endless archive of clips and memories fans scroll past every day. But looking back now, it feels different. It feels final. The song didn't shout. It didn't try to impress. There were no dramatic high notes meant to go viral. No flashy arrangement screaming for attention. Instead, it moved slowly, deliberately, like someone choosing their words carefully because they know it might be the last time they'll speak. His voice wasn't perfect in a polished, idol-like way. It trembled in places. It softened when you expected it to rise. And somehow, that made it feel more honest than anything he'd done before. Yu Menglong was never the loudest presence in the room. In an industry built on visibility, noise, and constant reinvention, he often chose stillness. While others chased headlines, he lingered in the background, letting his work speak for him. His acting was subtle, his performances restrained, his emotions often delivered through silence rather than dialogue. Fans who truly noticed him didn't love him because he demanded attention. They loved him because he never did. That song captured that essence perfectly. It wasn't performance designed to trend. It felt like a confession wrapped in melody. When he sang certain lines, his gaze drifted away from the camera, as if he wasn't singing to the audience at all. It was as though he was speaking to himself, or to a version of himself he knew he was about to leave behind. At the time, viewers applauded, commented, shared the clip, and moved on. No dramatic announcement followed. No farewell post. No emotional goodbye letter. Life went on. New dramas aired. New actors rose. And quietly, almost imperceptibly, Yu Menglong stepped away from the spotlight. That's what makes this moment so haunting in hindsight. There was no clear ending, no official line drawn between before and after. Just absence, a gradual fading, a silence that grew louder the longer it lasted. When fans eventually returned to that song, it felt like listening with new ears. Lyrics that once seemed poetic now felt painfully literal. Lines about distance, about walking a different path, about letting go without resentment. Was it intentional? Or was it simply a coincidence shaped by our need to find meaning in endings? No one knows. And that uncertainty is what makes it linger. Yu Menglong's career was built on restraint. He often played characters who carried quiet pain, men who loved deeply but spoke little, figures who endured rather than exploded. Watching him sing that song feels like watching those characters collapse into one real, unfiltered moment. There was no role to hide behind, no script to blame, just him, his voice, and a feeling he never explained. In the entertainment industry, disappearances are rarely silent. There are usually rumors, scandals, or clear turning points. But his absence came without chaos. It arrived gently, almost respectfully, like someone closing a door without slamming it. That's why this song feels like his last moment. Not because he said goodbye, but because he didn't. There's something profoundly human about that. Not everyone leaves with fireworks. Some people leave with a whisper. As the melody unfolds, there's a softness in his expression that's hard to describe. It's not sadness exactly. It's acceptance. The kind that comes after long internal conversations, after weighing dreams against reality, after realizing that wanting peace doesn't mean you failed. In that moment, he didn't look like someone being pushed away. He looked like someone who had already made peace with stepping back. Fans often talk about how his eyes tell stories words never could. In this performance, that couldn't be more true. There's a brief moment, almost easy to miss, where he pauses between lines. His breath catches, his eyes lower, and for just a second, the weight of everything unsaid fills the room. That second feels longer now than it ever did before. It's tempting to romanticize it, to turn it into a dramatic farewell narrative. But the truth might be simpler and somehow more powerful. Maybe it wasn't meant to be a goodbye at all. Maybe it was just a moment of honesty, captured before life took a different turn. And maybe that's why it resonates so deeply. Because most goodbyes in real life aren't announced. They happen quietly, disguised as ordinary days. Yu Menglong never told fans to wait for him. He never promised a comeback. He never explained himself. And yet, his presence lingers. In old scenes rewatched late at night. In fan edits set to sad piano music. In comment sections filled with "I miss him and he deserved more," and especially in that song. Listening to it now feels like reading a letter you didn't realize was important until years later. You notice the pauses, the emphasis on certain words, the calm tone that feels heavier than any breakdown ever could. It doesn't beg to be understood. It simply exists, asking nothing in return. Perhaps that's the most Yu Menglong thing about it. In a world that demands constant explanation, he left without one. In an industry obsessed with reinvention, he chose stillness. And in a moment that was never meant to be historic, he gave fans something timeless. That song didn't end his story, but it marked a moment where something shifted, where a chapter quietly closed, even if no one realized it at the time. And that's why it hurts in such a gentle way, because it feels real, because it mirrors the way people drift out of our lives without dramatic final scenes. Maybe one day he'll return. Maybe he won't. But that performance will always exist in its own space, untouched by speculation or time. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful moments aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones that slip past unnoticed, only revealing their meaning when it's already too late. This wasn't just a song. It was a pause, a breath, a still frame before everything changed. And whether he meant it or not, it became his last moment in the spotlight. Not because the lights turned off, but because he quietly stepped away from them. After that song faded into silence, what followed was not an ending people could point to, but a long stretch of unanswered space. And that space became the loudest part of Yu Menglong's story. In an industry where presence is measured by frequency, new roles, interviews, updates, his absence began to speak for him. Fans searched for patterns, for clues hidden in past interviews, in old behind-the-scenes clips, in the way he once spoke about acting as something deeply personal rather than performative. Slowly, a picture formed, not of someone who disappeared, but of someone who chose to stop performing for the noise. The main point that keeps returning is this. Yu Menglong was never chasing visibility. He was chasing meaning. Long before that final song, his career choices hinted at a different relationship with fame. He gravitated toward roles that required restraint, characters whose emotions lived beneath the surface. He trusted silence. He trusted pauses. And that trust carried into his real life. When the spotlight began to feel louder than the work itself, stepping away may have felt less like loss and more like relief. That song sits at the center of this shift because it captured him at a crossroads. Vocally, it wasn't about showing range or power. Emotionally, it wasn't about impressing an audience. It was grounded, almost inward-facing. The lyrics, whether intentionally or not, reflected themes that mirrored his trajectory: distance, quiet resolve, acceptance without bitterness. These weren't the words of someone pleading to be seen. They were the words of someone learning how to let go. Another core point is how fans reacted only after he was gone. While he was active, he was often described as underrated, overlooked, quietly talented. It's a familiar pattern in entertainment. Subtle artists are rarely celebrated in the moment. Their value becomes clear only in absence. When Yu Menglong stepped back, people realized how rare his presence actually was. His acting wasn't loud, but it lingered. His performances didn't explode, but they stayed with you. That realization reshaped the way people viewed that song. What once felt like a simple performance began to feel like a marker in time. Not a goodbye, but a turning point. It represented the moment before expectations fell away, before the pressure to remain visible took priority over personal peace. In that sense, the song became symbolic. Not because he intended it to be, but because it captured truth without performance. The industry itself is another quiet but important layer. The pressure to constantly evolve, stay relevant, and meet external standards can wear down even the most resilient artists. Yu Menglong never positioned himself as someone built for that race. His energy was different. He moved at his own pace in a system that rewards speed. That tension doesn't always end in conflict or scandal. Sometimes it ends in a quiet exit. This is where the idea of choice becomes central. Disappearance implies something taken away. Stepping back implies agency. And everything about how Yu Menglong left suggests the latter. There was no dramatic fallout, no public struggle, just distance. That distance feels intentional. It feels like someone choosing to protect something internal rather than sacrifice it for visibility. The song reinforces this interpretation because it carries no anger. There's no resentment in his voice, no sense of injustice. Instead, there's calm. That calm is telling. It suggests acceptance, not defeat. And that distinction matters. It reframes his absence not as a tragedy, but as a boundary. Another main point fans often return to is authenticity. In that final performance, there was no mask. Actors are trained to convey emotion, but what people noticed afterward was how little acting it felt like. The imperfections in his voice, the softness of his delivery, the lack of theatrics, all of it stripped away distance between performer and person. That rawness is rare, especially in controlled environments where every moment is curated. Because of that, the song aged differently. Time didn't dilute it, time sharpened it. Each rewatch added context rather than taking it away. And in that sense, it became timeless. Not because it was meant to be iconic, but because it was honest. There's also the emotional connection fans continue to hold on to. People don't just miss his work, they miss what he represented. A reminder that success doesn't have to be loud. That artistry can exist without constant validation. That stepping away doesn't equal failure. In a culture obsessed with constant growth and visibility, his story offers a quieter, more uncomfortable truth. Sometimes growth means retreat. The final point circles back to silence. Silence is usually feared in entertainment. It's seen as dangerous, as erasure. But Yu Menglong's silence became a presence of its own. It invited reflection instead of consumption. It forced fans to sit with feeling rather than chase updates. And that's why the song still resonates. It wasn't filled with answers. It left space. Whether he ever returns is almost beside the point. The power of that moment lies in what it represented, not what followed. It marked a shift from performance to personal truth, from visibility to intention, from being watched to being at peace. That song didn't announce an ending. It revealed a boundary. It showed what it looks like when someone chooses themselves quietly, without explanation. And in doing so, it gave fans something rare in this industry. A moment that feels real, unresolved, and deeply human. In the end, the reason it still matters is simple. It reminds us that not every story needs closure to be meaningful. Some moments are powerful precisely because they remain unfinished. And that song, suspended in time, continues to echo, not as a farewell, but as proof that sometimes the bravest thing an artist can do is step out of the light without asking to be followed.